So I was browsing the vegan Google News tab and I came across this story. This was from a local TV station in Albany, New York, and the headline was, "Social Dilemma, Should My Vegan Friend Make a Meal with Meat for Guests?" Today I want to discuss that particular story, but also talk about how this is something that I have actually struggled with over the last few years, and hopefully it will be relatable to some of you guys. And actually, while I was writing this script, I got pretty emotional a few times, so I'm hoping I can hold it together today, but I was pretty surprised by my emotion on this topic. I think it's a topic that a lot of vegans struggle with, but it's pretty uncomfortable to talk about, and I think maybe it's not talked about enough or in an open enough way. On the surface, it feels like this should be a very black and white issue, and in fact, when I see it discussed online in vegan forums, because I do see it discussed a lot, people tend to discuss it in a very black and white way. But in reality, I find that these situations can get muddled pretty easily and can be pretty difficult to navigate when they come up. Let's talk about the news story first. First of all, I appreciate that they even talked about this topic on this, random local news station. I think it speaks to how mainstream veganism has gotten and how it's become pretty commonplace to have discussions like this. On this news station, they do a segment called Social Dilemma, which is pretty much as it sounds. Someone will write in with a social dilemma that they're having, and then viewers will write in with what they would do. So this is the social dilemma that the person was having.
My social dilemma now, Carrie was asking if her vegan friend should have to make her a meal with meat because she makes her friend vegan meals when she comes to her house. She thinks it's only fair. Yeah. Here's what you have to say.
That guy's reaction kind of cracked me up when he was like, ha! First of all, I am going to make a snap judgment on Carrie that she is not a great friend. If I'm being generous, I would say that Carrie just doesn't really understand the concept of veganism and what it means. Obviously, you would make a vegan friend the vegan meal because they don't eat animal products. And I will just say, if you don't want to cook for them, that's fine. I think most vegans are accustomed to, bringing their own food or eating before they go somewhere or ordering their own food, providing for themselves. I think we're all pretty used to that. You, as the non-vegan friend, don't have a moral opposition to vegan food. So you making the vegan friend vegan food does not mean that they also should have to cook you something that they're morally opposed to. Those are my thoughts, but let's hear what other people thought.
Barbara says, the etiquette experts all say that someone with such dietary restrictions should bring their own food when visiting someone else's house and not expect the hostess to prepare a special meal for them.
So like I just mentioned, I do agree with this. I never expect someone to cook for me. I'm always like, hey, do you want me to bring my own thing? Or like, can I bring food to make things easier for you? And 9 times out of 10, the person will say like, oh my gosh, no, of course not. I'm gonna make, mostly vegan food, or I'm gonna make all vegan food. Like, no problem. I found a recipe I'm excited to make. Also, something about reducing veganism to an etiquette issue didn't sit well with me. Veganism is not a dietary restriction. As many of us know, it's a moral stance that you take against the exploitation of animals. So I agree with the sentiment of like, the polite thing is you don't assume someone else is going to go out of your way to make something that maybe they're not comfortable making, they don't really know how to make, and that you should always sort of offer to provide your own food in one way or another. Next.
He says, I would gladly cook something different so all of my guests would enjoy their meals. Teresa says,
I'm not really sure what that answer means. It doesn't really seem to have anything to do with veganism, but okay.
Says, if you're vegan and do not want to cook for your friend who is nice enough to cook for you during a visit, you can at least go buy a rotisserie chicken. Oh, that's a great idea. It's already cooked, done, and done.
There you go.
Teresa, that defeats the whole fucking purpose of being vegan. It's not just about not wanting to have to, do the action of cooking the actual meat. It's about not financially supporting an industry that exploits animals. So spending money on a rotisserie chicken is not, the done and done answer that it's being presented as.
Dawn says, she should make something for you. You do it for her, only right to do. Kathy says,
Dawn, again, you do not seem to understand the concept of veganism. This answer really betrays this pretty severe misunderstanding of what veganism is, what it means. I think this attitude is why a lot of restaurants refuse to cater to vegans, as I just talked about a few videos ago, and also why people will say things like, well, if you're vegan, why bother eating mock meats? If you don't like meat, just don't eat it at all. Why do you want something that tastes like meat and feels like meat? And I think a lot of people just don't get it, and that's okay, and I think that's why having conversations is so important. Let's go to the next answer.
Kathy says, Most vegans do not cook non-vegan in their pans unless she has a separate set of cooking pans. I wouldn't expect her to do this. She could, however, provide some type of takeout, maybe pizza.
Right, there's the option.
Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. Finally, someone in Rochester, where is this? Rochester? Finally, someone in Albany, New York gets it. This is the best take I've seen so far in the video, and I was really happy that you can hear all the other anchors in the background being like, yes, right, exactly. Like, that they understood how important it is for vegans to, you know, keep their cookware and their pans and pots and pans, their kitchen, a vegan space. And let's finish the video because this is almost the end.
Right, there's the option.
I think the takeout idea.
Yeah, that's right. You can still
That's
get them a
great.
meal, or even if you want to get them a fancy meal. I mean, there's so many options these days. You just don't cook it, and then you don't mess up your pans and your vegan lifestyle.
Takeout option.
There's the dilemma solved.
Done.
We're good.
Thanks for the comments, everybody. We appreciate it.
Oh gosh, gotta love local news. So this is clearly what they've landed on as the solution to the dilemma. I don't completely agree with this for the same way I don't agree with the rotisserie chicken one, being the financial aspect. You're still paying for something that you don't morally agree with, and also potentially having something in your house that you don't morally agree with. So this leads us pretty well into talking about some of my experiences and my dilemmas with this issue. So like I said, I've seen this discussed a lot in online vegan forums, which is, do you allow animal products into your house? And I think for most of us, thinking about this hypothetically, the answer would be no, I'm vegan and I have a vegan household and I don't allow any animal products into it. Now, this is also assuming that the other people in your household are vegan, which for me is the case. But even since moving into our house less than a year ago, I have encountered this dilemma multiple times. So hypothetically, everything in our house is vegan. That's the way we would want it. But firstly, everything in our house is not vegan, and that's because we live with 2 tiny carnivores. We feed our cats meat, as I don't believe it would be right not to. Honestly, one of the reasons I'm most excited about lab-grown meat is the possibilities as far as pet food is concerned. That alone, the topic of pet food, is a very uncomfortable topic for many vegans, understandably so. But yeah, there's one way in which I don't consider my household a perfect vegan household. There's also been other times where we've had people over either just to visit or to come and spend the day helping us with household stuff. And then sometimes we'll end up ordering food at the end of the day, and because there are no fully vegan places that we can order from, a lot of times we end up ordering from non-vegan places that have really great vegan options. And maybe our guests will choose a non-vegan option. And because they are visiting or helping us, we will end up paying for the food. This has happened a few times, and it kind of just happens like in the moment. You're really tired and hungry, you're not really thinking about it, you're just kind of like, let's just get the food ordered. And then later it will hit me like, oh wow, I paid for that. I paid for something that I really morally disagree with. And yeah, I guess in these cases you can always say to people, hey, since we're vegan, we don't feel comfortable paying for animal products, so any non-vegan items that you order, if you wouldn't mind paying for those. But then there's also the issue of the food still being consumed in your house. And also tableware. I have realized, aside from just having non-vegan food in the house, that I am pretty uncomfortable with people eating non-vegan foods off of our plates and bowls. And also the issue of pots and pans, as mentioned in the video. We've had people come and stay with us that, because of medical reasons, can only get their protein from animal sources. There was a situation recently where we ultimately ended up with people cooking eggs in one of our pans. I guess a possible solution there would be asking people to bring their own cookware when they're visiting. It's really hard because it feels like so much of this boundary establishing when it comes to keeping your household vegan goes in direct opposition to everything we've been taught about being a good host. At the same time, we now have our own home. We feel like we can create this kind of perfect vegan sanctuary for us and have, you know, the tableware that we love and the pots and pans that we love. Something about cooking and eating in a completely vegan kitchen, it feels so sacred and pure in a way on my conscience. And when that slips out of your control, it feels really bad for a number of reasons. It also feels really hard to redefine the boundary once the precedent has already been set. And that's kind of the situation we're in now. There have also been times when I've been caring for a sick relative and they ask me to buy something for them that's not vegan. This is really difficult too, because it feels very uncomfortable to break my personal morals. But it also feels really uncomfortable to tell that sick family member that you really care for, no, I'm not going to help you. Of course, you can always ask them to pay for it, but that also feels really awkward sometimes. Maybe I'm too much of a people pleaser, I don't know, but this is a situation in particular that I have really struggled with. I think it's really ironic that vegans are constantly labeled as being too rigid or inflexible. I don't think people realize that a lot of us are constantly having to be flexible on our morals like this in order to accommodate the carnist world that we live in. Even patroning a restaurant that isn't vegan, I feel, is a sacrifice on my morals. Like, sure, it's great if they have vegan options on the menu, and I appreciate that, but at the end of the day, I still feel like I'm giving money to an establishment that is profiting off of animal suffering. I am being very honest with you guys about some of these situations that I've struggled with over the last few years. Sure, I could just say I'm a perfect vegan and I've never struggled with sacrificing my morals for anything, but that wouldn't be honest. And hopefully me being honest about this is relatable to some of you guys and helps you feel less alone if you've struggled with the same things. The reality is life is complicated and messy, and things don't always go the way that we plan or wish they would. We're all humans, we're imperfect. And I think the best thing to do is to try to learn from these experiences and maybe make adjustments based on them moving forward. What I've realized is that if we are having company, I need to provide the food in order to ensure that it will be vegan, which I don't mind doing. I love cooking for people. Sometimes I just don't have the time to prepare it and get it together though. And in those cases, I think the reality is we are just going to have to go out to eat as opposed to ordering food to the house. That way the compromising of morals can take place elsewhere, you know, in someone else's space, on someone else's tableware, in someone else's pots and pans. We're all doing our best, we're all just trying to figure it out, and all of these things are just the reality of being the minority in a carnist world. So like I said, I really hope this video helps some of you if you've struggled with the same things. I would really love to hear from you how you have dealt with these situations, if you've been in them in the past, or if there are other sort of vegan living in a carnist world situations that you've also struggled with. Leave a comment and let me know. Thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more of my videos, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!